Hi, ich wollte nur mal kurz sagen, dieser Podcast hat jetzt auch einen Newsletter, damit du keine Folge mal so aus Versehen verpasst und damit du mitbekommst, wenn es eine Aktion oder ein Special rund um weg bouldern gibt. Den Newsletter, den findest du auf meiner Steady-Seite, das ist steadyhq.com/weg bouldern und natürlich auch auf wegbouldern.de. Das war's, viel Spaß mit dieser Folge.
In Iran, if they arrest you, you never know what is going to happen to you. You can be 2 weeks in a jail, and after 2 weeks, the news, oh yeah, that person did a suicide, he was depressed, she was depressed. Or you can go completely healthy in a jail, and after a week, you can come back with a broken leg or a broken arm. I mean, it is really brave to go in the streets these days.
I have heard that from multiple of my friends who did competition climbing in Iran and also in international competitions that they were told by the Sport Climbing Federation, we don't care if you win a medal or not. The first and most important thing for us is your hijab.
Hi and welcome to episode 120 of weg bouldern. My name is Juliane Fritz, and in this episode, together with climbers from Iran, I will cover what is going on in Iran. I mean, the huge protests that have started in September 2022 and that are still going on. And also we talked about the situation of climbers in Iran and the situation of Iranian competition climbers. This podcast is supported by its listeners with a crowdfunding on the platform Steady. Thank you all for your support, and if you'd like to support me too, go to steady.com and look for weg bouldern. Thank you. For this episode, I talked to a few Iranian climbers. Some of them you will hear speaking, and some are not part of the recording, but I will mention what they told me. The talks with these people also went on after the recording, so I will add some things I heard after the actual interview. I guess like most people who follow the protesters in Iran, I am shocked by the brutality of the regime towards anyone, men, women and children. And while all this makes me so sad and angry, I am amazed that the Iranian people I spoke to, that they still show so much positive thoughts. Because this is the biggest protest movement that this regime in Iran has seen so far. And the people feel that this is their power, that they are so many, and they feel that change will come. Hearing this hope in their words is so powerful. Also, I want to explain something about Iran that I understood later. The religious rules in Iran, they sometimes are kind of random, and it seems like this happens on purpose. When we now look at pictures of women in Iran, we sometimes see their hair totally covered, sometimes just a bit covered. And one could ask, if this is such a strict law, a law that if it's broken, people are being imprisoned, why can women sometimes follow the law and sometimes not? What I heard from the Iranians is there are parts in Iran where the religion law is stricter and also sometimes not so strict. And it depends on who you are. Are you a woman that is well known also outside of Iran? Then you'd better follow the rules stricter because you represent the country. Also, sometimes rules are changed all of a sudden. And even if you wear a hijab that fully covers your hair, you could still be in trouble if someone feels like it, meaning if someone thinks your hijab is too colorful. So I got the idea that these rules are not so clear and it has a purpose. The purpose is to keep the people in Iran in a constant uncertainty. Breaking the law means you could be imprisoned, tortured, and killed. Of course, people might overreact in following the law just in case something bad happens. This means you are never feeling secure. You are always feeling watched because these religious fanatics can be everywhere around the corner to get you. And everywhere, that could also mean outside in the nature, in the mountains, at the climbing wall. One of my guests in this episode said, you can be more freely as a climber when you are far away from the city in the nature. And another person I spoke to later said, no, things have changed in the last years. There have been incidents where climbers were attacked at the rocks because men and women together were climbing. Also, another climber just told me how the financial situation is for climbers in Iran, that it had once been a sport that people could afford, but now it's getting harder. Gear and climbing shoes are becoming super expensive, and even pro climbers who are in the national team, they are not able to buy themselves new climbing shoes. Also, something about male climbers in Iran that want to compete internationally. As a man, you won't get travel papers unless you have served the Iranian army. So in those years where you could be the best in your sport and you should train, you are going to the army. And after that, when you manage to become an athlete that is allowed to compete, you are there at an IFSC competition. And you just have the feeling that the others think, oh, these Iranians, they are not the strongest nation. But no one knows what you've been through and how hard your way has been to get there. Okay, so these were some of the things I found out in my talks off the records. And now let's listen to my guests to tell you more. Welcome to this podcast talk about what is happening in Iran. We will look at the situation through the lens of the climbing community, because it was an Iranian climber who brought the freedom protests or the revolution in Iran very close to us. It was Elnaz Rekabi. At the Asian Championships in Seoul, she entered the wall without a hijab, and that is strictly forbidden to women from Iran. Elnaz later officially said that it was a mistake not to wear the hijab, and it is believed that she was forced to say that by Iranian authorities. But to most of the world, this was a sign of protest, because since the 16th of September, there are mass protests in Iran. The streets are full of people. In Iran, a young woman was beaten, arrested, and killed because she did not wear a hijab properly. Her name is Mahsa Amini. She was arrested by the Guidance Patrol in Iran. That is a form of moral police. They search the streets for people who don't follow the clothing rules in Iran, rules like properly wearing the hijab. And what happened to Mahsa Amini was not the first time that people in Iran saw this kind of brutality and oppression. The oppression by the mullah regime under the religious leader Ali Khamenei. This regime has been there for 43 years now. And one of the many things that I find outrageous about the system in Iran is that these mullahs are known to be super rich people. Their kids are traveling the world, living in big houses in Western countries. And while they have a good life, many people in Iran are very poor and oppressed by their leaders. And the oppression is a lot upon women to follow a so-called Islamic rule. But of course, a woman has a father, a brother, a husband, a son. And so the brutality against women, the imprisonment, torture, rape, and murder, this oppression concerns all the people in Iran. And so it's happening now that a protest started by women is joined by almost the whole society, by women and men. And as I am hearing, the ones who are not protesting are the people who are connected to the regime, of course, and the ones who are silenced because they had been taking part in other protest waves years ago, and these waves had been brutally beaten down, and so these people are afraid to walk the streets again today. And also I read that the regime is trying to shut down voices on the internet. They have a huge cyber army. They read comments to see who's the loudest on the internet. They have fake accounts to spread fake news about Iran and about the protests. And platforms like Instagram, they are blocked in Iran, where the protesters are showing, for example, horrible videos of police brutality in Iran. But still, some people know how to find technical ways to get their messages through. And after what has happened, I reached out to Iranian climbers to ask them, what is going on? Can you tell me more about the life and climbing in Iran? And can you share your thoughts about the protests? So some people I have just spoken to without recording, and some people are part of this talk now. And I know it's not easy for Iranian people to talk freely these days. So thank you and hello to Sina and Paddy.
Hello.
Hello, Julian.
I think one of the first questions we as climbers had was, how can we interpret what we are seeing from Elnaz? In some reports, it was said that she was imprisoned in Evin, that is a prison that is known for its torture practices. And some of my Iranian contacts, they have been saying, no, Elnaz was forced to do the apology. She's not in prison, but she's imprisoned at home. She can't get out. Her steps are watched closely and she can't contact other people without permission. Also, when I talk to people, it is clear that you can't look at any information without asking who is really sending this message. Is this person free to talk, or is he or she being watched or being forced? Also, what I'm hearing is now the people who are close to Elnaz, they are being observed too, and we must ask what of the things that they are writing and saying, what is true, what can they really know, or what are they allowed to say? So it's a really hard situation. So Sina and Paddy, when it is so hard to get information at the moment, how do you get information about what is going on in Iran?
Actually, climbing community of Iran, if you climb for a few years in Iran, you get to know almost all the good climbers of the country. So actually also the friends of the good climbers. So the best and the most trustable way to get the news about her specifically are her friends. But it can get very complicated because a huge part of the budget of the government of Iran is actually going to the security forces. As you said, cyber teams, which they really invest and they do their best to make it unclear on the internet. So if you start following the news, you always see lots of fake news. I mean, news of other countries, when I go through them and try to understand what's going on, it's not at all to compare with the situation of Iran. I mean, it's not that complicated. But in Iran, they do it by purpose. They want it this way. They want to make it difficult so people give up trying to find the reality. I'm sure they are following maybe some techniques which are based on psychology, how to make you tired of following the news. Like, unfortunately, there are many people, like many people of my country, that they really give up when they start following the news. Not only on this case, but many political prisoners. They say, how can we get sure that this story is real? Like they say he's being tortured, and the other day we see he's free. He comes out of the prison for a week or something like that. So how can we judge if it's true? And they just give up. But that's actually what the government wants, like to make you tired. And from the moment you give up, from the moment you don't care anymore, you say politics is not interesting to me, I have a lot to do in my own life, you actually give them space to abuse and to do what they want. And I mean, we are somehow attached to the politics of our country. If you have a normal country, like, I mean, if you live in Germany and things are going well and you don't have financial problems, maybe you feel this less attractive to go and follow what's going on your country, in the government of your country. But we, as Iranian people, we are dealing with lots of up and downs, and lots of things are changing. Today you buy something, next week it's 3 times more expensive. So you have to go and think about it. You have to ask about it. So, and when it comes to politics and when it comes to national security, you can imagine how deeply more complicated it can become. And it has a reason to make us tired, I believe.
Yeah. Paddy, what do you think? How do you find information?
I mostly follow the social media from the news agencies out of Iran, but there are also some very unofficial news sources. Nowadays, for these projects, a lot of celebrities that live outside Iran and they have a huge reach. Some have millions of followers. They are constantly uploading videos and news that are coming out from the people. People literally send their videos to these celebrities and the celebrities republish them. There is no way to make sure that all of them are real and the news are true. Important is to always think about it critically. If it's a very important subject, for example, think if the government is actually going to benefit from this or not. Is it bad for the government or has bad consequences for the government? Then maybe you can have a judgment, but it's always very, very vague. There are also group chats, but with hundreds of thousands of people part of it, and they constantly update the news about different cities, which areas in the cities people are out currently protesting, so you can align with that. If you live in that specific city in Iran, then you know where to go if you want to be loud. But again, you always have to make sure that the news is right. And if you can make sure, then you shouldn't act or react to it.
Mm. What I realized is that the media, also the social media you were talking about, it's full of fake news. I heard that there are also like whole fake news Instagram accounts made by officials from Iran. And how do you know what's real? So are there any details where you would say, okay, this can't be true, this is not like a real account?
It's very hard, but sometimes you can do a little bit of research. For example, if it's a tweet, people go to the profile of the tweeter and check when it's created. If it's created in 2022 September or August, then it's probably a cyber account. On Instagram, if it's a very important thing, I don't react to it until I see it officially from some news agencies, or I see it coming from different sources, or I check the profile of that person. But it's very hard.
Okay, yeah, thank you for these ideas how to check what is real. And now, from this media perspective, what my feeling was when I was trying to reach out to people from the climbing community, some of the people I was talking to, luckily, I was talking to them also before all of this happened. So there are some people I knew before. So I know these are real people. I mean, you, Paddy and Sina, you know people from Iran. So I don't know too many people from Iran, but a few of them I've talked to because like they follow my podcast. And so I know, okay, these are real people from the climbing community. And so this to me are authentic people. So when I say stuff here on this podcast, things that I found out, it's from people, those people I know, they are climbers, and I guess they can be trusted with what they told me. Yeah, so let's go on talking about what is it like to live in Iran today. Sina and Paddy, you both are not living in Iran right now. You had been living there. But still, can you tell us what does it mean to live under a regime like the one we have in Iran right now? What does the daily life look like? And where do you feel that people are not free? Maybe Sina, you start.
Yeah. Well, Julian, it's like this. I mean, first of all, we are both born after the revolution. So we didn't really experience the time before. So
what kind of revolution? Can you make a summary?
The Islamic Revolution of Iran happened in 1979, and let's say for the first time we have a religious regime in the country of Iran. Mm-hmm. So it's now 43 years. But still, our parents, our grandparents, uncles, aunts, all the family, people, neighbors who have been in the other period, in the other time, of course, we heard the stories or we see movies from that time. So we know how does it feel. We can really feel it. The music which is coming from before the revolution, the cinema, the art, everything which is coming from that period of time is giving us frequencies of how was the feeling really back then, how was life back then, how especially women, they had freedom of choice, how they want to dress, how they want to behave, and things, of course, changed a lot for men also. It's not easy. It's like sometimes people say, okay, like I ask a friend, why do you buy a bird in a cage? The answer is that bird is born in the cage. So he or she doesn't find it really difficult because he's born in the cage. But I want to tell you, even that bird has an instinct. So it's the same with human beings. It doesn't mean we are born after Islamic Revolution, so we cannot taste freedom. So of course we understand what does it mean, especially now in the modern age of technology and internet. Like nowadays, all these young people in the streets of Tehran, they're about 20 years old, 15, 18. They easily can go through like YouTube and website, social media, and they can just in half an hour understand what does it mean to have a party, for example, in America. Like if you want to have a party in Iran, you always have a stress because it's not allowed. I remember when I was climbing in Iran, we had like making appointments with our coaches, like Friday is weekend actually in Iran. It's not like Europe or America. So Friday is weekend in Iran. Like we are coming on Friday to the climbing gym. So we will be a group of boys and girls that we would like to climb together. Like you want to climb with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. So you want to experience it in the gym, but normally it's not allowed.
So men and women don't climb together?
No, it's not allowed. So, but in the nature, if you go far enough, so you're sure, okay, I'm like 2 hours far from Tehran. So, okay, here in the mountains, so far, there's no police. Okay, so you feel free. So you and your girlfriend without headscarf or special hijab, you just feel free and enjoy the nature and you keep your climbing. But in the cities, all the gyms, they have to follow the rules which is coming from the government. It's not only climbing, all the sports. I mean, there is no sport that we may do it together, boys and girls. Of course, it's painful. I mean, it's something you cannot really digest. Like, okay, what's wrong with it? I mean, I am here with my girlfriend, with my sister, with my friend or whatever. We are in the climbing gym. We are here to climb and nothing else. So you can imagine what a big contrast it has. Like, not only sport, like other activities, you may be forced to be separated. If you want to take a bus, men and women, they have to sit separated. Like the bus is divided in two. So the back side of the bus are women and the front side is men.
Okay, maybe Paddy, you can go on. How would you explain living in Iran?
I left Iran around 11 years ago. The thing that was the most annoying for me was this security atmosphere, the feeling that you're being controlled all the time, and not just having to wear the hijab or act decent. You were always controlled. If you want to enter the university, they're checking you. If you want to go to the hospital and see your sick father, they're asking you questions. Why are you here? Who are you exactly? This feeling of people from the government, always wanting to control your behavior, your intentions, wanting to know what you want to do, and not giving you the respect that an adult person deserves. That was the most annoying thing for me.
Yeah. I think to people living in Germany, it sounds on one hand absurd to hear this, but I mean, living in a country like Iran, you would not use the word absurd. It's just horrible to live in such a situation. But what I'm asking myself is really, why and how is it possible, like, to keep a whole population in this kind of like a cage? What Sina just described, where the women are allowed to climb. So it's like, oh, cool, they are allowed to climb, but not together with men. So what does that mean? What kind of psychological game is that?
It's actually very interesting what Sina also said about the bird in a cage. It's very true. We are born in this. For you, it's absurd. For us, it was normal. We didn't know anything else. We thought, this is it. It's like that. You're supposed to behave. And if you don't behave, then these are the consequences. Later, maybe since I was 12 or 13, we had satellite TV, which was illegal. And we, for the first time, got to know how the West is living their life, what freedom is, that if a girlfriend and boyfriend kiss each other on the street, the world is not going to end. I get that a lot from my Western friends, that, if somebody tells me, put your hijab on, or tells me, don't do this, I won't listen to that. I will fight it back. How can all of 80 million people follow these rules? It's not that easy. You will get harassed. It needs a lot of energy to deal with it. So at one point, you just give up and accept that as normal.
It's not you mentioned psychological game, something like that. This is not a game, actually. This is religious. This is religious government.
Yeah.
I mean, there are countries like Malaysia or Singapore, which they're also Muslims, but they're not extreme. They keep it like as a normal thing. Like, for example, in Emirate or in Dubai, They are Muslims, but you as a German tourist, you may go and walk around the way you want. You're not forced to be dressed. But in Iran, it's a bit different. The rule from the beginning, so from 43 years ago, was written like that hijab is something that you cannot make a decision about it. That's the rule of the whole country, and you must respect it. If you are Christian or you are Buddhist or whatever, we don't care. You live in this country, you have to follow the rule. That's what they tell us. You never can digest something like that. I can tell you there are even Muslims in my country, good Muslims, that they're also against, like these days are women in the streets of Iran doing the protests against the regime while they are wearing their chador, like the most complete hijab, like that black big thing covering the whole body. But they are also participating in the protest because they are saying that's our choice to have the chador, and if a girl wants to walk on my side without headscarf, that's no problem because it's her choice. So I don't want to say it's only coming from Islam, no, because there are lots of Muslim countries which are doing a normal way of governing the country, but it's in our country which is going too far and too extreme. So it's not at all easy. You never can get used to this. No matter you are born after 1979 or before, you just feel it. I mean, when freedom is taken away from you, I believe people of North Korea, they have no internet, they have no idea what's going on outside of the country. But still, I tell you, even those people, they can understand, they can feel that they're not free. That's the painful thing. And after the revolution of Iran, we had 8 years of war with Iraq. And lots of Iranian soldiers died in that war. And out of this war, this regime could manage to collect some credit or make it like look very holy, like, look, these are the dear young people of Iran dying for Islam, for Islamic regime. So, and many people actually died, that's true. And because of that, they tried to increase the feeling of being shamed to be different. For example, you're a girl, you decide to not have a complete hijab, or for example, your headscarf is around your neck instead of being on top of your head. And somebody would tell you in the street, lots of soldiers died in that war. How dare you wear like this? You know? So they increased the feeling like this. Like, I mean, that 8 years of war gave them
like a form of positive collective feeling towards their country and the rules that they need to be followed.
Yeah, that's true. So lots of people, out of respect to families who lost their sons, they decided to respect. They felt uncomfortable as well, like, okay, come on, they died because of Islam, so we have to have respect for it. So the atmosphere of the whole country turned very Islamic all of a sudden. But after a while, this regime started to do all the wrong things, and it took 43 years until now that now the fake mask is fallen, so people can see the reality. Like the kids of all these mullahs, they're having fancy luxury lives out of the country, and even the mullahs in the country, they all have top financial levels. I mean, they're not worried about paying their bills. They're not worried about the food they are going to eat. They don't really care, like the devaluation of the money in Iran. It's like, to give you an example, so it's like you decide to go to America next month. You need $1,000. You go to the exchange, you pay 1,000 euro, and you get $1,000. And you go. For us, it was something like this, let's say 20 years ago. But now, if you need $1,000, we have to pay 30,000 euros to get only $1,000 back. Do you understand the crazy percentage of devaluation?
Yeah.
So people are really under pressure, financial pressure. They want their freedom. And with all this brutality and unfair behavior and all the things happening every day, so this anger is growing. And this suffering is getting bigger and bigger. And out of this suffering, the consciousness is also growing. I mean, people are starting to like slowly thinking, why? Iran is a rich country. We have gas, we have oil, We have lots of natural sources. So what's wrong in my country? Why I'm not able to buy a car? Why am I not able to pay my rent? So people are slowly waking up. Like before, let's say 10 years ago, maybe half of the country were still a bit cool about the situation. Like, okay, every country has difficulties, like things like that. But now it's going like really, like I can tell you 95% of people, they're going crazy. They have financial issues. And now they saw what happened to Mahsa Amini. They just think, it could have been my daughter, it could have been my sister, it could have been my wife, my girlfriend. So such innocent girl, just for a stupid thing like hijab. Actually, her hijab was pretty fine because there are photos of her before getting arrested. So she was completely wearing a long manteau with a good headscarf. She was actually completely okay. And that thing happened because sometimes the hijab police, they just arrest you and take you to that special police station. I can tell you they get something like commissions, like to make that car full and come back to the station. Again, go collect some girls from the city, bring back to the station. So they get something like imagine that police think, oh, I'm doing my job well. I get more commissions because I'm arresting more today, you know? And the rules of the country is letting them to go this far with abusing. So how can we get used to something like this? It's never going to happen. Only the suffering is getting bigger. But what they're not conscious about is we are getting every day more and more conscious of, we cannot call it a life we have in Iran.
And what is it like for you now from far away to see the pictures from your home country?
Well, for me personally, it's not at all easy. A friend of mine asked this question a few days ago, and I just said, for me personally, it's more painful to be far from the storm and watch everything from distance. I mean, if I'm in the storm, it's going to be less painful. But of course, the family, the friends, and everybody is telling you, now it's not the right time. Wait 1 month, 2 months, not the right time to come back to the country. So it's really painful because I cannot be I have to be in the news. I mean, I cannot sleep. I would feel guilty if I stop following what's happening in my country, because if one day the freedom is going to come in my country, I would like to have my participation in this victory. And if I don't care, how can I deserve that freedom in the future? So this is a problem for all of us as Iranian people. So we have to care. Otherwise, we would stay in the same situation. And in the end, sometimes we got this, I have to do something. And we started to feel disappointed of not being able to be a big influence. But at least you can just, even close friends around you, sometimes you can really just make little changes. Like it's a saying, be a light in the darkness and see the darkness disappear. I mean, just do a little effort for people around you. Try to make them conscious as well. Because it is like this. I have friends, for example, they're not even religious, but they're somehow very much focused on their own lives and their own problems. And they're just saying, oh, you know, politics is very dangerous. Let me be on my own. I don't care. I don't want to check. Because, of course, they know what a big danger it is to be politically active. But we need time. I mean, it's growing. This consciousness is growing.
Pari, how do you feel seeing what is happening in Iran?
Slowly I'm getting numb. But in the first weeks, it was crying every day, literally 10 times a day. I just kept watching the videos and just shaking on the couch, just watching a girl being kidnapped by plainclothes, or just a dead body of another Iranian on the ground. And Sina is very right. It's very hard to be here. I literally was telling my husband that I want to go back. I want to fight. But there is also the risk that if I go there, I probably have talked too much. So I won't even get to my mom's place, probably. I don't know. But it's very hard. And it's very hard not to follow the news. I'm at work. I can't even focus. Then I check my phone, watch a video. I cry a bit, and then I have to clean my eyes and go back to work. It's not easy.
Yeah. And what is your impression? How big is the movement in Iran? What are their hopes and what are maybe possibilities for a real change now? I don't know if anyone can predict the future here, but what is your opinion?
It's very spread out throughout the country. It's not in a specific city or region. And, Iran is very colorful. We have different ethnicities. We have Baluch, we have Arab, Turk, Lor, Kurd, and also the Fars, who are the majority. Everyone is fighting and everyone is being killed on the street, especially the regime is brutal against the minorities, the religious minorities and minorities in ethnicities. The fight is very spread out. I mean, we had protests in the past years. It's happening every some years and it's getting bigger and bigger, and people are getting even more serious about toppling the regime. This time, it's very different. Just the spirit of the protest is different. People are very persuaded that they this time want to topple the regime. Back then, I remember when I was in Iran, there were big protests and I was a part of it too. We were just angry. We were protesting. We wanted our rights. We were protesting about the result of an election, but we weren't thinking of toppling necessarily. We didn't think we can do that. We didn't think it was going to be so easy for us. That was not our purpose. I guess we still had hope that we can change the regime democratically. Slowly, we can make reform. But years passed and things got worse and worse. The regime is very rigid, and they put a very solid foot on the ground. They are not willing to back one step from what they want. They won't give the people any of the rights that they ask for. And this time, people are talking about a revolution. They are calling it a revolution. One of the sentences they frequently write on the walls in the street is that stop calling it a protest. This is a revolution. And it's been going on for a longer time than the previous protests. And people are also using other methods. They are not just going on the streets and chanting or bringing in a flag or a placard. That was back then, 12 years ago, when I was going on the street. We were even silent. We had silent protests. We were thousands of people just walking on the streets and not saying a word, although we were attacked by the plainclothes and security guards. But this time, people are not doing that. They are bringing weapons on the street. They are fighting back. If they are getting beaten, they are beating the security guards. There is a fight going on the streets. They set some buildings on fire, some governmental buildings or Basiji buildings. Basiji buildings are buildings that belong to a group of Basijis that work directly under the supreme leader, and they are very infamous among the Iranians. And this time, people have high hopes. I know a lot of people, Sina mentioned them, but they are like, politics, I'm not interested. I lost hope. I don't think Iran's going to change. I'd rather just live my own life. But even those people are nowadays saying, yeah, maybe we can do this. Mm-hmm. I think it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe there are possibilities. Actually, the fact that every day people are coming back to the streets, it means they know there is a possibility. First of all, to make it a little bit clearer for you guys as European people or American to understand what does it mean. If you decide to go to protest in Iran against the regime, I cannot call how brave it is. I cannot make this measurement obvious for you guys, but I can tell you, for example, if tomorrow you decide to go to Berlin and protest for some reasons with some other German people to participate, if you get arrested from the very first second, you have your rights. You have rights to decide to not talk, to not say anything. You have right from the very first second to choose an advocate. I mean, it's fine. There is still a big fear of getting arrested, but in Iran, it's not like that. I mean, if they arrest you, you never know what is going to happen to you. You can be 2 weeks in a jail or somewhere arrested, and after 2 weeks, the news, oh yeah, that person did a suicide, he was depressed, she was depressed, we didn't do nothing to her or him, and it just comes on the news like that, yeah, someone with depression died like that in a prison. Or you can go completely healthy in a jail, and after a week you can come back with a broken leg or a broken arm. I mean, it is really brave to go in the streets these days. And another difference, if I compare it with 2009, the other protest, big protest happened for a year, is back then the economy in the country was much better than now. Still bad, it was still bad, but much better than now. So a young guy, 20 years old in 2009, and a young guy, 20 years old in this period of time. So the new generation now, they have nothing. And if you have nothing to lose, you are going to be more brave. They have no future, they have no job. If they have a job, they cannot have a saving. I mean, they are not able to have a dream. So that's why they are braver than us, than my generation. Because back then I had things to be worried about. Like, oh no, if I get arrested, I lose my job, or I lose my saving, or this happened, or that happened. But nowadays, these people in the street, I mean the young generation, I'm talking about them, they are the majority of the population of people in the streets. They have nothing to lose. They are beautiful young people with dreams that they cannot achieve. So that makes it actually more dramatic and more painful for me personally, because, you know, it's like, yeah, actually the government is scared this time more than previous time, because they know in front of them there are people who have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
It's a real drama. So every movement towards freedom is being appreciated these days a lot. From all the celebrities, actor, director, musician, singer, athletic. Like Elnaz is not the only one who did this move. We have other athletics like Ali Karimi or Ali Dai. They are the famous football players of Iran. Actually, they don't play anymore. But they're like heroes of the country because they dare to talk. Even one short sentence on their Twitter, because all people are watching, all Iranian people, most of them, they have Instagram account and Twitter and everything, and they say, wow, that famous guy, that celebrity, that athletic is being our voice. And that's very much getting appreciated. So if you compare the way Elnaz was dressing the day of competition with other female climbers of that day, like she had trousers with a long sleeve shirt. I mean, her body was actually completely covered, and it turned out such a big title on the news. Why? Because it was a big step. It's the first time after 43 years that a female Iranian athletic dared to do something like this. And it's a huge step, actually. It's not the first time that somebody do something like this, among men, I mean now. And then afterwards, they have to, I mean, they will be forced to make fake declarations or confess to something which is not real, to get rid of the pressure and the threats on them and on the family and their friends and stuff like that. During the last 5 weeks, all the people who died in the streets, like Hadis Najafi, for example. Hadis Najafi, she was shot in Karaj many times, and she died in the same place, in the street. And after 3 days, they brought her father on the news to confess, to make fake declarations that not at all, no, my daughter didn't participate, and we have no problem with the situation, it's pretty fine. We are behind our leader, everything is fine. I mean, as a father who recently lost his daughter, can you imagine how big that pressure should be on him? So in that huge sorrow he's dealing with, come in front of an interviewer on the TV and say lies. If I get arrested, they will force me too, because they are going to bother my family, arrest my sister, arrest my brother, arrest my father, and they bother them, or will, it depends on the situation. It's possible they say, we are going to kill, for example, your mother if you don't say this. And they mean it. So you start thinking, okay, I'm going to just confess to what they say, and I'm going to save my mother. can you feel it through my words? What does it mean to be this much under pressure?
It's depressing. And
it is.
But I guess you really know what it feels like when you are from Iran, when you are living in Iran. Yeah, thank you for explaining the situation for us. What I've been also trying to do the last days was to research about the competition climbing scene in Iran. What is it like to be an athlete for Iran, to compete for Iran, and can you really freely travel as an athlete? And what I found out is, and you can add something if you know anything more, what I found out is the Iranian Federation does not have so much money to send many climbers to competitions. Sometimes it's just one person. And when you travel outside of Iran to compete as an athlete, you have to leave a kind of deposit for the authorities. That means you have to leave a lot of money or give them the documents of your house, of the house that you own. And that way you will ensure that you will come back to Iran, or that you will not say anything against the Iranian regime when you are outside, because they literally have all your properties, or that way they make sure you don't try to flee the country. They also take your travel documents when you are outside of the country, and this way it would be harder for you to seek asylum as a refugee in another country. So it's a lot of pressure from the government upon athletes, and you need a lot of money if you want to compete for Iran. So when we ask ourselves, that was a question the last days, why did Elnaz go back to Iran? She could have tried to flee. This could be the reason there's so much pressure upon her. So when Elnaz was in Seoul, it might have been this way, that she did not have her papers, and she also did not have her smartphone. And also there are rules for everyone who travels outside Iran, not just as an athlete. You should not talk about the politics in Iran, otherwise you can be seen as a spy and you can be punished in Iran. And you also have to wear the hijab outside of Iran. And I also heard a little bit about what the athletes in Iran are thinking right now. For them, it's hard to go on competing. They are questioning the sense of doing sports in these times, questioning if it is right to compete for a country that kills its own people, and also that it's getting harder for them now. They are also being watched more closely after the incident with Elnaz. So yeah, that are the things that I have heard about athletes in Iran right now. What are you hearing?
I just wanted to mention that before I add something to this, that the Iranian government has an ideology, and that's promoting the religion of Shia Islam to the world and being the leader for it. This is their actual intention. And so they will go through all of these steps for athletes to show to the world that, look, women, if they want to do sport, they can wear hijab, they can be Muslim. You can do anything you want in the frames of Shia Islam. So this is their intention. They see athletes as a political tool. They are hypocrites. They want to persuade the West, the world, that they are the best, and they are like a model, a role model. They want to persuade that we are good, Islam is good, and this is what they're trying to do. But I just wanted to mention about the pressures that some of my friends have been telling me about. Some live abroad at the moment, so they could really tell me about it from their past experiences, that these athletes, even at very, very high levels, Elnaz has also experienced that, same as other athletes in Iran. They're not even allowed to train with men, the female climbers. And we know that in climbing already, that men can learn from women and women can learn from men, but this is taken from them. In the training camps, they're always being watched. They weren't allowed to talk too much with the guys, they told me. I have heard that from multiple of my friends who did competition climbing in Iran and also in international competitions, that they were told by the Sport Climbing Federation, we don't care if you win a medal or not. The first and most important thing for us is your hijab. And I wanted to also mention how these women or girls have been feeling about this. I just asked one of my friends, and she told me about one of her experiences in an international competition. And they were 2 or 3 women from Iran competing in a World Cup. And they were in the isolation room with other women, and they were braiding each other's hair. And these Iranian athletes felt ashamed that they couldn't be themselves. They had to wear this stupid headscarf that they didn't want to. They couldn't even braid each other's hair and just go for a competition. They even heard that behind their back that someone said, "Oh, their hijab doesn't look nice. Like even a little bit of your hair is out. What kind of Muslim are you?" Like people that were not aware of the situation were even talking behind their back. So they felt this shame all the time coming in front of the audience and having to compete in this attire that they didn't even choose. It was not them.
Sina, is there also a thing you want to say?
Yeah, I know wrestling is one of the sports in Iran which is being it's something which government is proud of, because we have the best wrestlers of the whole world. They won lots of gold medals and they keep bringing lots of good medals back to the country. So every time the flag of Iran goes up, the government is proud for sure. But about climbing, it's a bit different. About all the sports, all the other sports except for wrestling, the budget is much less. And I know, for example, in the climbing case, for example, Elnaz, she was paying even the men of the climbing team of Iran, the very big part of the costs they have to pay themselves. So Elnaz, she started working a lot to be able, and practice less actually for herself, to be able to collect the money for the competition season. And climbing actually is something, I can call it new in Iran. I mean, let's say 20 years, 30 years, something like that. For example, in Elnaz's case, she started at the age of 12, and she's from Zanjan, and Zanjan is not the capital city of Iran, it's Tehran, the capital city. So Zanjan is smaller, and when she started climbing, it was actually through her brother, which was encouraging her. Her brother is a good climber as well. And then they noticed she has lots of talent. And she started to put more time on this. But back then, for example, they had only 2 times a week time slot to go and practice, to go climb. Like 2 times a week and only 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's everything she got in the beginning. So with that little practice, she had like 1 month a coach, and the coach was a man. And after 1 month, she was not allowed to, she was only 12. She was not allowed to practice with that coach anymore because it's a man.
Are there female coaches in Iran?
Yeah, but they are only allowed to teach girls. So female for female, men for...
So then she had another coach?
For a period, she had no coach, and afterwards she had a coach, and she started bringing medals in the national competitions. So slowly, she was getting more attention from the Climbing Federation of Iran. And thanks to her, the city of Zanjan got more, I mean, there were more girls in her city which were interested to climb. So they got longer time slots. They were allowed to climb for longer time, slowly 3 days a week. And it's now somehow equal. So boys and girls. Also economically, it's good for the gym to let the girls also to come and climb, because there are many girls who are interested these days to come on climbing. So actually the climbing society of Iran, I mean the female climbing society of Iran, they have a big thank you for Elnaz, at least in her city, because of all the big changes. And she has about 85, I think, medals until now, 85 and 90, something like that, national and international medals. And she's the only female in the history of the country of Iran who got this amount of medals for Iran. And even for her, even now, even the very recent competition she participated, she was paying for a big part of the cost. And to answer the other part of your question, yeah, I think it's like this. When you leave the country, Your passport will be with the leader of the team or a representative of the federation, and they take it away. I think, I'm not sure for other sports it's like this. I think so. It's like, I know from North Korea, they, because of the World Cup, and we heard the stories that like half of the team, they disappeared in the airport. They wanted to run away and don't go with the flight back to the North Korea. So their passports also were taken away as well.
Mm.
Sometimes they say it's coming from the discipline, it's safer, we take care of your passports, it stays with us. But I believe there are other reasons as well.
Mm. And just to give some more insights on the climbing scene in Iran, would you say it's more an outdoor climbing scene, or is indoor sport big? How can we imagine that?
Yeah, luckily Iran has amazing nature. So, for example, even if you're from Tehran, the capital of the country, you just need to drive half an hour and you will reach the mountains. So climbing in the nature is very popular these days. But indoor climbing as well, because it's not possible for everyone to drive that far and go to the nature, and people don't have that much time, and there's gym close by. So I remember when I still was in Iran, the gym was getting pretty crowded. Lots of people are interested.
Mm. And is it a sport you can easily afford in Iran, or is it just something for people who are like a little bit more wealthy?
Well, back then in 2014, it was okay to pay. Like with a normal income, you were able to pay for it with no problem. But these days, I don't know. If you need a coach and you have to pay, for example, for the rope and the shoes and the harness, I have no idea what the price is now. But everything is more expensive. So I imagine climbing is not going to be different. Climbing is going to be as well like a big cost these days.
And is it something that is easy for a woman to start this sport? So is it more men do the climbing and the women are like...
Yeah. Actually, I remember I saw it from an interview with Elnaz years ago. She was being told a lot that you are fine, like a tiny girl, and this is not something good for you. Why are you doing this? But she proved it to everyone that you can be tiny and you still can have a much more beautiful balance on the wall. You can do nice things nicer in a more fine way because you have other structure of like body. But yeah, in my country, if you, for example, decide to go for powerlifting or kickboxing, and they would say, yeah, it's more for men, but it's less and less. I mean, maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it would be more strange for a girl to choose for a sport like climbing. But these days, I don't believe. For example, if today a girl goes to a gym or tell her friends, I'm going to start climbing, and the other friends are not going to be amazed like, wow, this is not for women. No, I don't believe so. It's done. That period is all past. But what do you think, Paddy? Am I right?
I agree with Sina. Also, when I go outside in the nature, we are pretty much half women, half men. Sometimes even we have women more. Iran culturally is quite liberal. Even in universities, you will see in a lot of fields, even engineering fields, you will see we have more women than men. It's strange, but comparing it to how the government is acting, women of Iran are pretty capable and they've changed the atmosphere.
So it's even more strange how oppressed they are at the same time.
Exactly. That's a big contrast.
Yeah. One detail I wanted to know something about is this Iranian Climbing Federation. Who are these people? I mean, we now hear that they are asked, like, how is Elnaz? What is happening to Elnaz? Are they telling the truth? Who are these people?
Well, when you talk about federation, just like the Minister of Sport or any federation of any type of sport, when you use the word of federation, it means people of the government. They have been through all the filters and they passed it. So he or she is one of them, is someone which is obeying the rules of the government. Otherwise, he or she wouldn't have the chance to have a position. So you cannot really trust what they say. You cannot really trust what they say. You can, specifically about Elnaz, I believe the only way for me personally to believe if something is real is from her close friends and family, and that's it. So what you are hearing on the national TV, it's a big question mark. I do not trust it. Especially in this situation, which the government is experiencing a huge tension. It's it's actually the biggest and the longest period of protest they are experiencing. So, of course, I'm not going to believe what Climbing Federation of Iran is saying.
No. Also, what I heard is this thought of other athletes in Iran that they might choose not to compete at all these times, which is a sad thing because when Iranian people do not show up, then also the subject of what is going on in the country right now is like not part of the world, you know? So what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely respect their decision. We need to consider the fact that these athletes need to carry the flag of Iran the way the Islamic Republic has symbolized it. And a lot of people are ashamed of that specific flag. And athletes, as well as Elnaz, they have been even criticized by the public for wanting to represent Iran. There are athletes that have lots of opportunities to go to a different country and compete for them in their name, but they don't go. They stay in Iran and they compete for Iran. It's their decision if they want to compete, but they will be under pressure from the public that you are representing Islamic Republic. Why are you doing that? Unfortunately, Elnaz was called government athlete by some people because she wanted to purely compete for her own country. But she was also being pressurized from inside. So the pressure on Elnaz, for example, is both-sided. One side is the federation and one other side is people. So I think in any direction they decide, it's respectable.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see. That's a hard situation, of course. You also told me a bit about the role of competition sport in Iran. What kind of sports are important? Like, what did you say, Sina? What kind of sport is important? Wrestling?
Wrestling. Yeah. And powerlifting and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, men's wrestling.
Yeah. That's true.
And men's football. We have to bring the name. It's the men's sport. That's important.
Yeah. That's true. Paddy is completely right, yes.
So that was a thing I was thinking about the first time I saw a woman with a hijab at an IFC competition years ago. I don't remember if it was Elnaz, I'm not sure. At that time, I thought it was great that she was there, that she's able to compete, and I did not think that I could ask how hard is her way to get here, how much is she observed. And now I think maybe we are blinded to believe everything is okay in a country like Iran when one woman shows up at, for example, an IFSC competition. So do you think that we should ask more about the circumstances of these athletes and not just think, oh, everything is all right?
No, I assure you it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, for athletics, for Iranian women athletics, it's very difficult to compete with hijab, depending on the season and the situation or whatever. You are talking about sports, so you have a high rate of heartbeat. You are doing extra effort physically, so hijab is going to be completely crazy to do it while you are doing sport. Like, I know from Elnaz, because of the situation of the competitions like bouldering or lead climbing, even when she's alone in a climbing gym in Iran, she's practicing with hijab most of the times to keep the conditions very similar to the conditions of the competitions. Do you understand? So, for example, if she's climbing with a t-shirt and a short without headscarf, of course, her body can get cool faster. So it's not similar to the real competitions because when she's competing for Iran, she has to follow the hijab rules. So it is very difficult. I mean, what she achieves, believe me, in this situation, it means a lot. It means, I mean, if she for example, if she becomes the 4th in the ranking, I believe if she would have the same facilities of a climber, for example, in Norway or Denmark or Germany, she could get a silver or even a gold. Also, the quality of the climbing gyms we have, it's not to compare with European standards. So even the quality of the holds in Iran, they're all made in Iran products mostly. They're not to compare with what you touch in a climbing gym in Germany, for example. Everything which is made in Iran, it's going to have lower standards and lower quality. I hope in the future it will be changed and we will be proud of Iranian products. But in the meantime, it's the same with Iranian cars and everything which is produced in Iran. They have lower qualities. And the facilities and the budget and the air conditioning in the climbing gyms, and it's far below the European standards that I know. So to practice in circumstances and situations like that and come out of the country and get so many medals like Elnaz did, it means a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that.
I just wanted to add something.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that you saw someone with a hijab on and you thought, oh, that's great that she is showing up and is competing. To be honest, if that woman was an Iranian athlete that you saw, that's exactly what the Iranian regime wants.
That's what I was thinking now, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they want to see and hear, that other people from Western countries see that and see how Muslim women have the freedom to do sports and Islam is great. And this is the propaganda they're trying to spread. I'm not talking about athletes that are voluntarily wearing their hijab. We see a lot of athletes from Muslim countries wear their hijab voluntarily. You asked if you guys should ask them about their hijab. If that's an Iranian athlete, I would suggest not to ask any questions about that because, first of all, they're not allowed to talk politics. And second, if they don't believe really in their hijab, which is in most of the cases true, then they feel ashamed about it and they cannot tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that seems like also a contrast to me is that the government makes such big efforts, like that these athletes, when they travel, that they don't spread any false or wrong words, and that they don't flee the country. It seems like such a big effort, for example, for such a small sport as climbing. Why do they do that at all?
Yeah, because the answer is actually very simple, because they are worried about the image of the country outside of the country. So if, for example, a very open-minded athletic comes out of the country and, for example, let's say even a man, just a climber, one of our Iranian man climbers, come out of the country and during the competition or after the competitions, that guy is holding a glass of beer, for example. And that photo is being published in the world, the best climber of Iran is drinking beer, for example. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be a very bad image for the country because alcohol is forbidden. So of course they put lots of effort, first of all, when they want to complete the team and make it ready for travel. These guys, they get lots of warnings, like be careful and don't do this, don't do that. And for women, it's much worse, as Paddy was explaining what's happening for girls during the competition seasons. It's all because they want to keep a very Islamic image of the country of Iran. And it's very painful because what Paddy said, I heard it also, I read it on the internet, that some people said someone like Elnaz, which is competing for Iranian national team, is a government athletic.
Yeah.
But it's not right. I mean, you are a climber, you have dreams, you want to become a champion, you want to even make your people proud of your sport or whatever. It doesn't mean because our government is Islamic, so forget about it, we don't do nothing because it's going to be abused by the government. No, I mean, if I would have a level like Elnaz or other good climbers, I would also participate for Iranian national team. Because Iran is not only the government, we also have 80 million of people. So the government of Iran, the whole men in the parliament of Iran and all these mullahs and all of them, they're not even 1 million of this 80 million. But let's say 1 million, that 1 million, they have all the power and all the money. So they have the huge dictatorship and they try to control everything. But in the end, that 79 million other Iranians, they have dreams as well. They want to make their country be proud of them, you know. So it doesn't mean if a football player is coming, for example, to Brazil to participate in a competition, it doesn't mean that guy is religious or related to the government. That's very low level of thinking. I mean, that's not at all correct.
Yeah. I would like to add that Elnaz had many offers to compete for other countries. She always said that she wants to compete for her own country.
Yeah, I mean, if she decides about this, she all of a sudden is going to have a normal European income. She's going to have much easier life, for example, in Europe. She's going to have a job immediately. She can start as a coach in a good climbing gym, for example. But she decides to still fight for her country, to make her country proud of her and to achieve success for her country. So it's beautiful. And it even means more what she did. I mean, for her, it's a matter of one small decision, and in 1 month, she easily can get a visa and leave the country. But these days, no. But these days, I'm sure she's under pressure. But as Paddy said, imagine somebody tells you, as from tomorrow, you will be paid 20,000 euro per month, and you just come and compete for us in America. And you say, no, I would like to compete for Germany because Germany is my country. So it's beautiful, I believe. It means a lot. People will love you because of that. You are thinking for making your people happy or whatever. It means a lot. It's deeper than being very egocentric.
Okay. I thank you for everything you told me or told us about Iran and about the climbing in Iran. In the end, I want to come back to the movement in Iran. In your opinion, how important is it to keep looking at Iran and to keep reporting? I think a lot of people who look at the protests right now, they are shocked to see what is happening there. And one of the thoughts that we all have is, what can we do, or what can I do? I am just one person. And we often hear this slogan that we should be the voices of the people in Iran. So when you hear this question, what can we do? What is your answer to that? How do you answer the question to yourselves?
I would say keep talking about it. It's very, very important. This time the protests are going on because they are getting heard by the rest of the world, and it's because people keep talking about it. In Elnaz's case, I think it's very important that we keep talking about it, bringing her name, asking for her well-being from the Iranian Sport Climbing Federation, and never forget her, because even if these protests or revolution is silenced, Iran has shown that multiple times in the past years that as soon as they silence the protesters, they start giving out very heavy sentences to the arrested people during the protests. And Elnaz's case is unfortunately very strong because the media attention to her was very big. And the government knows that. We've seen women that did not even have as much media attention getting very long sentences, jail sentences. In Elnaz's case, it's very sensitive, and I would very much appreciate people following up with her.
Okay. Your final statement, Sina?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Paddy. That silence, if happens, we are giving a very dark space to the government so they can do whatever they want, like the most brutal way of, as Paddy said, crazy sentences from the court for something very stupid, very small. All of a sudden they say 10 years in prison, 15 years in prison, just like the same thing happening in Russia or China. So it's important to keep repeating the names of these innocent people, these political prisoners, these poor students, young girls and boys who are getting arrested in the streets because of nothing. Also for Elnaz, it's important that we keep calling the names, and she will be forever respected, Elnaz, and she was not going to be forgotten. And I thank you a lot for being our voice. This means a lot to us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Juliana. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for speaking. I need to add one more thing in the end. Also something that I heard after the recording. My two guests here said, in Elnaz's case, she was offered to compete outside of Iran, and that might have been a good thing for her. I also heard other thoughts about that. One told me, when you are one of the best climbers in Iran and you leave the country, the risk is that suddenly you will be a nobody out there. And this is not just an idea, it actually happened to an athlete. And this athlete also suffers from racism inside the European climbing community, which is a really disturbing experience, as you might imagine. So I guess the more people I would talk to, the more details I would get to know. But for this episode, this is it. I thank all the people who talked to me, and I wish them all the best and all the help and all the hope they need.